Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to today's video where I'm going to be going over my top 10 tips on how to get you from the airplane to your first chicken dinner in PUBG. Now I'm going to roll through these pretty quick, so let's get started. All right, tip number one, when you first get into the match, open up your map and mark the plane path. This is going to help you in a couple of ways. Number one, it's going to tell you what are the closest locations you can drop to. Number two, for later in the game at phase 1 and phase 2, it's going to give you a better idea of where your enemies could be rotating to or rotating from based on the plane's path. All right, tip number 2 is going to be getting down to your loot location the fastest. Now, Wacky Jack did a good video on this about 8 months ago. I'll link it down below, but the essential essence is you want to jump out of the plane about 900 to 1,000 meters from your drop location, fly straight forward, and then when you're about 2 little squares away from your location, dive straight down. This will allow you to reach maximum velocity, which is 234 kilometers per hour, to go all the way down to the ground the fastest. Now remember, when you pull the chute, you can still hold the shift key to dive down faster or hold the control key to glide further out if you need more distance. Tip number 3, when you finally get down to the ground, you must prioritize finding a weapon first. Do not worry about getting a backpack, heals, attachments, none of that stuff. Even a helmet or a vest are not as important as picking up your weapon. So if it's on the way to your weapon, that's fine, but don't ever go out of your way to pick up anything else but a weapon first. Otherwise, you might end up like this.
Surprise, motherfucker.
Whoa, calm down, Jamal. Don't pull out the 9.
Now, a good tip while you're looting in a compound is to make as little noise as possible. And you can do this a couple of ways. Number 1, don't break glass when it's not necessary. Number 2, don't sprint when it's not necessary. And number 3, when you think someone might be nearby or might be trying to find your location, you hold the control key while you're walking or crouch walking, and you'll be virtually silent. Now, speaking of looting, if you're running out of space in your backpack, a good rule of thumb is to always keep the same ammo type weapon, so like an AK and an SLR or an M4 and a Mini 14. That way you don't have to share multiple ammo types for your weapons. In addition, don't carry things that you don't need, so like multiple sights, multiple attachments, ammo for weapons that you don't really need. Drop all that stuff. And ultimately, you don't want to carry too much of one thing. You want to have a nice balance between your meds, your grenades, your ammo, and your attachments. Now up on the screen, I'm going to put up an example of a poorly mismanaged inventory screen versus a well-managed inventory screen to give you an idea of what it should look like. Okay, now within the first minute or so of the game, the first phase 1 circle will show up on your map. Now it's really important when this happens that you take a look at your current location in relation to where the center of that new circle is going to be, because the rule of thumb is the circle will close more on the center of that first circle. Now this is a good opportunity for you to realize if you need to rotate early to the new circle or if you're in a good position now, because remember, even if you don't have all the loot you need right now, you can rotate first, get a better position on the new circle, and loot more there as well. Okay, so now that you're finally looted and in a better position, you want to be really tactical about choosing your first gunfight if you can help it. It's going to be really tempting to take the first shot as soon as you see an enemy, especially if they're running out in the open. But really think about only taking a shot if you know you can get a kill. And even if you can get a kill, is that person a direct threat to you now? Or is it smarter to hold off on your shot, gather more intel about the rest of your enemies, and move to a better position for the next circle? Now, if you do decide to engage with your enemy, it's always a best practice to aim for the head for your first shot. That way, if you hit your headshot, it's very easy to get a follow-up body shot to finish the target off. Now, if you aren't able to immediately get the kill on your enemy, it's always really important to remember that it's okay to disengage from a gunfight. My typical rule of thumb is if you don't kill the enemy within the first, say, 20 to 30 seconds of your gunfight, you really should start thinking about disengaging, getting an alternate position, or just removing yourself from that gunfight altogether and head for the circle, because enemies could be swarming your position at that point. Okay, the next tip is when you finally do get your kill or you come across a care package, you want to be really careful and safe about looting. Don't just run right up to it, especially if it's in the middle of the open, because good chances are someone's waiting for you to do it, and they're going to take a shot at you when you go to loot. So 2 key practices here to prevent yourself from dying from looting. A, never stand still on a loot crate or a loot box. Always wiggle your character back and forth to make it harder to hit. Number 2, always throw a smoke or 2 smoke grenades on the care package or on the loot crate before you get there. That way it makes it harder for you to be seen, and you can take your time looting inside your loot crate. Okay, now coming down to the final phases of the game. Phase 5, 6, and 7. This is where the blue zone is going to do the most damage, and it can be very, very detrimental to be caught out late. So you want to prioritize positioning over kills at this point. You also want to make sure you're fully boosted before that next circle starts to close. That way, if you do have to run, you're going to be able to run faster and heal faster. And also a good tip is that when you're looking at your map, the blue zone closes at the same time on all sides of the circle, but the shorter sides of the circle is where the blue zone moves the slowest. So if you have a lot of space between the blue zone and the edge on this side, and then a little bit of space on the blue zone and the edge on this side, this is actually the safer side to be on, because that's going to be where the zone moves the slowest. So you can crouch walk with it as opposed to having to sprint just to keep up with the circle. All right, last and final tip. You made it to a top 3 situation or a 1v1 situation, and you really want to clutch up that dinner, but you don't know exactly where your enemy is. Do not make the mistake of throwing random grenades hoping that you might get a lucky nade kill on your enemy. If you don't know where they are, you want to do your best to not make any movements, no sounds, and let them make the first mistake. I see all too often when I'm in a 1v1 situation, an enemy will throw a random smoke grenade or a random Molotov or a flashbang or something like that. And while although it would be nice to get that lucky kill, more than likely all you're doing is giving away your position, because it's really easy to see where a grenade is thrown from, and the enemy player can track that grenade down to your approximate location, and then they have the upper hand on where you are. All right, guys, that wraps up for today's tip video. Now, this was just the tip of the iceberg after me playing for a few thousand hours. So I hope it helps you get your first chicken dinner, or you and your next squad to your next chicken dinner. And I appreciate you guys for watching. Make sure to smash that like button, subscribe for more PUBG content. Come stop by my Twitch channel. I stream 5 days a week at twitch.tv/C_dome. Link in the description. And I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.